Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Temba Robin, and this is the interview crew. So this is the first episode that we're doing, hopefully in a series of episodes during lockdown. My first two guests today are Sean Sandiford, director and owner of Wanna Do Events, and Paul Wolff, the director of operations at Ironman South Africa. I do apologize for the sound quality. Obviously, we couldn't all get together into the studio, so we've had to record over Zoom. So it's a little bit thin and speckly, but enjoyable nonetheless. I hope you enjoy. So, Paul, on to the subject of you. Obviously, you're in there with Ironman. Is race director or ops director the correct title?
I'm director of operations. I'm director of operations now. I started off. So we go on the history of this. I was a bike in Knysna for 12 years. So I left school. I was at Queen's College in Queenstown. That's why I'm Eastern Cape boy as well.
Yeah.
The last year I had to do 2 years in the army, and then I went to university. Not sure what really wanted to do. I was going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And found bike kinetics there. I was a first private practice in PE for 12 years. I looked after EP rugby for 8 years when they could still play the game. Just joking. I worked with Grizz Wiley. I don't know if you remember guys, but maybe old, but Grizz Wiley was an ex-New Zealand rugby coach. He was with the guys when I first started off, very different type of guy. My business partner at the moment, so he was a patient of mine. He was M Cubed, the financial house, the MD there in PE. He came to me to lose a bit of weight because he was a borderline diabetic. I got 50 grams off him. Then he invited me to the World Cup cricket. We had it in PE. We got drinking too much around the bra. And Ironman was in Cape Town for 2 years. And the guy there, the exchange rate went to hell like it has at the moment. And he lost the franchise. So I just started dabbling in triathlon. I was quite a good runner in my young days. And I just started doing triathlon at the age of 32. So I said to Keith, there was this race in Stellenbosch, in Gordons Bay that didn't work. We should look at putting a concept together.
Yeah.
So we went to do a race called the Nelson Mandela Freedom Challenge. At one stage, they were going to build a big statue of Nelson Mandela at the end of the pier in PE or at the harbour wall. And we were going to build a triathlon at the bottom of that statue. And just in 6 to 8 months, we applied to the World Triathlon Corporation for the franchise, because those days was a franchise. They said, the South Africans messed it up. They gave it to an Austrian company. We invited them to South Africa, and they said, no, they're going to Cape Town, then they're going to Durban. If they don't come right, they'll come to PE. Well, they didn't come right, and within a week, we set up a company. This was in October. In January, we had our first 70.3. When those days was called a half Ironman. It wasn't a 70.3.
Yeah.
And we started I resigned. I sold my bike next practice. My business partner resigned whose name's Keith Bowler, resigned as the MD of M Cubed, and never put an event together. We put our first one with 450 athletes in PE.
That is insane.
We owned the company for 7 years, and then we were bought out by venture capitalists. We then worked for the Americans, and then they sold to the Chinamen. And we're now the biggest endurance company in the world. So we own Epic, we own Wines to Wales, we own mountain bike races, we own the Rock and Roll series, which is a marathon with music.
Yeah.
And then all the Ironmans, 70.3s and Ironmans.
It's incredible. I especially like that you said, you guys sort of, you sold everything and embarked on putting together a race, having never really done it. And I mean, looking at the success, it just goes to show that, sometimes I think lots of people wait for things to be perfect before, or they want things to be perfect before they make their move on the world sort of thing. And sometimes, and this is, I suppose, case in point, and sometimes you just got to go for it. Sometimes you got to push it and things align.
Yeah, too many beers at a ride does the amazing thing sometimes.
So chuckling there in the background, Mr. Sean Sandiford. How's it going, mate?
Good. How are you?
Lekker, man. Lekker. So, Sean, you're in a similar space with outdoor activities and sort of athletic activities and stuff. One of which most notably, Well, let me ask you, how did you get into doing this? You're also standing around a bar with some beers.
Funny enough, pretty much a similar story to Paul. So I was in the corporate industry, and one night we had one of our corporate functions, and just before that, they'd actually spoke about retrenchment, for the whole company. And over many gins, I was talking to my boss at that stage, and I said, Grant, why don't we actually do an events company? And he was like, yeah, of course. So same story, over a couple of drinks, the next day we said, all right, well, we're not going to reapply for our jobs. We're actually going to take the packages and start these events. And that's what we did. I've always been interested in it and doing events on the side, but now I could actually focus on it. So one of those other things, a couple of beers later, a couple of gins, and then we went, and we started off with all these different races. So Grant, unfortunately, is left, but now it gives me time to actually focus on a whole bunch of other things and think of any crazy stuff that we can do. So that's how I started in this as well.
Yeah. And so now, I suppose the biggest one, the most notable one on your calendar being the Knysna Xtreme. That should be coming up soon. But what is the Knysna Xtreme for those who don't know? What makes a difference to, I suppose, some of the other races that are out there?
So the Knysna Xtreme, I got into the triathlon scene also quite a while back. What were the first ones? The Energate series, and then I hopped onto the 5150s, and also Paul's 70.3, so the half, and then I did the full Ironman in Durban, and I loved every moment of it, and you get so involved in it, and I was always interested in different things. I love traveling, and I saw this extreme triathlon overseas, and I was like, well, this looks interesting, so I applied for that, and there was Austria Xtreme, so I hopped into I did that race, and what's unique about, or what's different about the extreme races is, Ironman, it's a huge event, and they close off all your streets, and you get all nutrition, and it's a fantastic race. The extreme races is basically they don't close off the streets, they don't give you nutrition, and you have a support to follow you for the whole route, giving you encouragement and support and mechanical support and nutrition. Yeah. But then also the altitude gain is the problem. So the first one I did was the Austrian Xtreme, and your altitude gain over that is 5,800 meters. So basically you ride over the Alps 4 times, and then you run up to the top of the Alps, to the finish line.
Yeah.
And, that also bit, and I thought, well, this is incredible. And I grew up in Knysna and doing triathlons around the country. I thought, well, maybe we can actually do one here. And I thought about how we could do it, how we could block the roads. And then when I did the Austrian Xtreme, I thought we can actually apply this here. So I brought it here and, created a similar event, in Knysna. So how it's different to Ironman is Knysna Xtreme is a point to point. So what it means is you start at one spot and then you finish somewhere else. Yeah. And you have all the altitude gains, and you have a huge variety of areas that you have to cycle through. So you cycle along the coast, you go over Otanickel Pass, and then you cycle through the Karoo. So you have a nice coastal conditions, and you have a mountain range you get through, and then you have to ride through, the Karoo. And then the run is along Prince Alfred's Pass. So that was built in 1800 and something. So it's a nice dirt road, and the gain for that is quite something. So that's the difference with the races. So you also have your support to follow you on this on this route.
It's interesting that all of us sort of head down the sort of Eastern Garden Route way, which is a really beautiful part of the country, should I say. So I can definitely see why the area there and the views there really do lend themselves to the scenery of activity and outdoor activity. Like, I mean, living in Gauteng, there wouldn't be a heck of a lot. And I've been out to the Cradle. I know, Sean, you've ridden the Cradle a couple of times, and there's only once or twice where you can ride it. Otherwise, it's pretty much just road and sand. But back to Paul there for a second. So Paul, and this, I suppose, Sean, will be a question to you also, but have you guys ever taken part in any of your own events? So I'll shoot for Paul first, but yeah, have you done an Ironman or?
Yeah, the thing with me is because we've always raced throughout summer. I've never been able to race my own races in South Africa outside the 5150s. Yeah, I've done quite well in the 5150s when I've been able to do them, but those are small ones. but still in the middle of the race, you're still stopping, trying to organize an aid station properly because it's not set up. But this is one of those things. That's just my OCD personality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've raced luckily enough. Yeah, and that was one beautiful thing about this. I've been able to be lucky enough to race overseas. So I've raced 5 Ironmans overseas. One and one. Well, I got the 1 3/4 in Kona, Hawaii at the World Championships. I ended up in the medical tent on my last attempt, so I'm not going back there till I can race again. And then I've done 5 70.3s, and three of those were World Championship events. So Clearwater, Florida. The other one was Las Vegas, and the last one I did, my last race I did before my knees backed up on me, was Australia. So Malula, Australia, 70.3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been lucky. I've raced around the world.
You've done quite a few. And what would you say is of any of the races? I suppose distance regardless. So which do you think is the most grueling or the toughest one? Who the sort of when the Ironman community guys sit down and they go, this is the one that really gets
yeah, it's very difficult to say. So Kona, Hawaii is obviously the big daddy. Everybody wants to get to Kona, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Kona, Hawaii is not the most difficult course in the world as in elevation gains, but the wind is incredible. You think the wind's blowing in your face, you're going to turn around and get it on your tail all the way home. It just turns with you. It just seems to be in your face the whole way. You're racing in 35 degrees Celsius temperature, 80% humidity. So you're not going there. You wouldn't race a normal Ironman there because it'll be too extreme for the average athlete. So everyone there is at the top of their game. They've trained for years, if not months, to be able to race in Kona, Hawaii. So it's just black lava rock, extreme heat, extreme winds. Beautiful. It's different type of beauty.
Yeah.
Not many spectators because you're out in the lava fields and out in the highways.
Yeah.
So it's nothing like the places where I've raced the most is Ironman Austria. That's because it belonged to my partners when we owned the company.
Yeah.
So I've raced that one 3 times. Incredible. That is proper riding. You're up in very, very hills. But the tire is so smooth is that you're actually flying. Your descents, you're doing 60, 70 k's an hour on your descent. So you're actually riding quickly because of the quality of the roads and that. And the spectators there is also millions of spectators all on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So out of a spectator one, I'd say that's the best. The hardest one, amazingly enough, that I ever did was a 70.3. It was in Monaco.
Yeah.
Climbing those switchbacks, those huge big boats in the harbour looked like little dinky toys.
Yeah.
And then going into the back end into France again, the descents, those hairpin bends. And then we ran the Formula One course, and there was a hill up the casino, and you had to do that 5 times because it was like a rabbit waddling around and around and around and around. I would say that's the hardest race. I actually ended up walking 21 k's. It was so damn. The bike just killed my legs off. I couldn't run, and I'm a runner, so that was very frustrating. So on the circuit, I would say Lanzarote is probably the hardest in the world. 70.3 wise, East London is the second hardest. It is amazingly hard. Riding up to Bishu from East London and back, and then that wind always seems to switch on us as well. So yeah.
Cool, man. Sure. No. What's your toughest of all the races you directing at the moment? Which is Knysna the top of the pops?
Well, there's so many different extreme races around the world, and I think the Knysna one is really it is hard. It doesn't challenge the European circuit though, because they have massive mountains and we don't have such big mountains. But I had to do the Knysna Extreme just to make sure that everybody else could actually do it. You can't plan a route and then not do it yourself. So I did do the sections of it.
Yeah.
And it is in a couple of days. So I did the whole swim though, and the most of the ride just to see what it was like at various points and everything. But that is a tough race. But the hardest one I've ever done was the Austrian Extreme again. And the first time I actually did the race, I didn't make the last cutoff, so I was shattered about that. So I had to go back the following year and it's, I managed to do that, and it's just been incredible. It's such, that I think I made the final cutoff by 20 minutes or 15 minutes or something, but that, that was quite something else. And like I said earlier, I've done, the Ironman PE and a couple of the other races around, which were fantastic. And but the hardest one, definitely Austria. And Knysna Xtreme are rated as, Africa's toughest triathlon around as well.
Yeah. So obviously there's going to be the question about how COVID-19, I mean, I suppose it's absolutely unavoidable. How has that really affected your guys' as sort of, I suppose, as a business firstly, but, just trying to organize things? I hear you say you got the OCD, so I'm sure this can't be good good for the OCD.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. My biggest worry is actually for suppliers and announcers and those type of guys that are like totally on all our events to make a living.
Yeah.
So if we don't race it all this year, it's a huge hole in the industry for everybody.
Yeah.
So we've managed to move Ironman to November. We're looking at a date for the 70.3 for Durban, but there's only one man with the crystal ball who's going to actually know if we're going to race or not.
Yeah.
So we're all in the same boat. It's very difficult. It's a trying time for all of us, but we have to remain positive, look after each other, and that's the biggest thing. I think it's going to bring the community back together, where everyone live for themselves. To get through this, we're all going to have to live for each other and look after each other to get through these trying times. So maybe it was a restart button we needed to all hit sometime in our life.
Yeah.
Just spending time again with the family, frustrated, hitting a boxing bag, putting my surf ski on a pool, pedaling on the pool, trying to keep some fitness, and riding an indoor bike, and then running around my garden like a rabbit.
Yeah.
Makes you appreciate getting back and going out on a bike over Maitland's Hill and seeing the dolphins and the whales and all that sort of stuff again. So I think it's a major reset for all of us, and hopefully we can see it through. And we've all done it before, and I think we all around the same table are reinventing ourselves. We're going to have to look at how we do that again.
I love that, especially the way you said that. I think lots of people look at this as a sort of doomsday, end of the world, apocalyptic thing. And, at the heart of it, you just look at people, how many people are online sharing videos of silly stuff that their kids are doing. And this egg challenge that was going around, not that I'm going to participate in that, despite the number of people who have nominated me, but, it's all those funny, silly little things that are making people connected more so than ever. And it's smart. I mean, even the guys that are exercising now, trying to stay fit, I've seen the guys come up with some really amusing but clever ideas on how to exercise at home. There's a marathon, a home marathon or something, where you got to run 2Ks in your garden every day, and everybody keeps an eye on each other. But it just, there seems to be quite a bit of camaraderie and everything that's come through. So Shauna, with your races, obviously I probably have a slightly better understanding of how you've been affected, because I haven't worked in a while for you. But what from your personal perspective, how's COVID been? What's your story with the whole thing?
It's lucky enough, Knysna Xtreme is still in November, so November 21st. So we do have time. We are hoping things would open up before that. But like again, we have to just double check and make sure, that we can actually go ahead with the race. All my current events we've had to postpone or cancel. So again, we just waiting to see when we can open or not. So it's this whole waiting game to see. But then also now, Paul's moved his race a week before mine. So we have a bit of, we sharing, well, not sharing athletes. I think Paul's going to be taking a lot of my athletes to go do that. So we're having a discussion about, some really cool ideas. So we'll see if that actually works out or not. Yeah. But that will be quite interesting. But besides that, it's, pretty much like all other athletes and stuff, you really want to get out there and you're dying to get out there. So we're trying to find things. My garden, there's absolutely no weeds in the garden. So it's fantastic. Yeah, but it is nice. It's a very different situation. It's nice to see people actually realize that there's more to life than just working. So you actually spend time with family, you have calls with family, and you do stuff. So it's that whole, you chat to your friends, and there's that whole thing which is quite nice about it, and we'll just see what happens. Like as Paul said, big reset button, and we'll just see what happens when that crystal ball is given to all of us to actually see what we're going to go or what we're going to do.
I suppose we touched on the doom and gloom of COVID-19 and the confusions that is. But yeah, just sort of a cool question to end off with. And I mean, for someone like me who's not always in, I didn't grow up immersed in the sort of in the fitness world, sort of races and race organizing, it all seems like a very serious thing, almost like stressful and serious sort of thing. So I wanted to ask you each if you recall a funny, light-hearted, good memory or moment from your directing days. Sean, you can go first if you know one. Or...
Okay, I think I got two. So the one was, so with the Knysna Xtreme, we had one of the athletes. You swim in the estuary, and it's tidal controlled. And one of the athletes was swimming, and when they went around the one buoy, the current was so strong that every time they looked up, they had to keep clearing their goggles or their masks. Their goggles. So they would drift back, and then he would swim past this one buoy and then drift back and swim past it. And then after a while, he looked up at the lifesaver next to him and said, "Geez whiz, why are there so many buoys on this race?" And the guy turned around to him, it's not many. It's just you've been swimming past the same one the whole time. Just keep your head down and keep going. And when you hear these stories about the athletes, it's quite funny. But I think one thing that I did was the first time I ever organized a night run. During the day, we put up all these markers, for people to follow. And during the day, you could see far. You could see 100 meters or 50 meters and stuff. So we put these markers every 50 and 100 meters. And even though we did that, we still ran out of markers. So on race day, we thought, well, let's get a golf cart and we'll make sure that the people run behind the golf cart, so at least they know where they're going. So off we went, and we had these racing snakes behind us who were flying. So we had to push this golf cart as quickly as possible. But then further back, you have the walkers. So obviously there's a massive gap between the two people, and the walkers got lost because they couldn't see all the markers because they're 50 meters or 100 meters ahead. The racing snakes were passing us saying, "Come on guys, go fast on the golf cart." It was just a complete mess. And then when we finished, there were just people walking around this whole golf course everywhere. It was a good laugh in the end, but then next race was 100%. There were markers every 10 meters, and so a big different race. No golf carts, nothing.
You need that Hansel and Gretel string so people can just feel their way through the course.
yeah. Just turn up the music and say, "Come back to the music."
Yeah. And Paul, what's been humorous that side?
I also got two stories for you. So when we first owned the company, I think it was our third or fourth year. I think it was our second time we done the Ironman. We had two good mates, Joburg boys, that always raced together. They both had blue Cervelos P2s in those days, brand new that year. And they always entered at the same time. So they always got two consecutive numbers. So one guy's a tall guy, one guy's a short guy. Come out the swim. The tall guy jumps the short oak's bike and he's gone. The other guy comes out and he can't find his bike. And he's adamant now the bike's been stolen. So I'm saying, but when you did your bike check-in this morning, because you're obviously under Ironman, you booked your bike in the day before. When you came and checked all your stuff, was your bike there? Yes, he says. So I said, well, it doesn't quite make sense. How did it go missing during the swim? So eventually it came out that we realized what happened, that his mate had taken his bike. Now we had to go and try and find this guy on the course. And luckily in those days, they did 4 loops. It was of 90, so it was to make the 180 Ks. So we luckily got him on the first loop, got him to swap out the bike, but we had to disqualify him because you can't take someone else's bike out and
Oh, no.
and his mate got back on his bike and he actually still finished the race. But yeah, that was the first story. The second one, one of the big things is PE is our after party. And we've obviously got Andre Nel, the Springbok Protea bowler, fast bowler.
Yeah.
He's races for Ironman for the kids for us every year. So every time we end up at the after party, he comes up with a new signature drink. So you guys think this raw egg is something new? Well, this started happening to Andre Nel 3 years ago, and he drinks it with a poncho with coffee liqueur.
Oh, no.
So we hooked up together that night, and I'm normally quite bad at after parties, but anyway, we got going. We managed to go through his whole bottle of poncho and all 12 of his eggs. So he comes up to me, says to me, if you can organize for every egg you organize for me, I'll do another Ironman for the kids. So he doesn't know me well enough, OCD. So I go and find the managing director of the complex. I said to him, this is it. I need raw eggs. So he went to the kitchen, got me 12 raw eggs and 2 bowls of ponchos. So Andre is still busy paying back. He still hasn't got there. But by the end of the evening, we were eating raw eggs, eggshells and all. So it wasn't a very good night.
No, those after Joel's definitely have a way of getting interesting. Yeah, no, guys, I think that's the everything in a nutshell. I understand, Shot, for making some time to chat to me, and yeah, I think it's nice to have these interesting discussions. Keep the communication alive during this time. I think some people are going stagnant at home. But yeah, so for any of the Ironman fans that are at home, I don't know if you guys wouldn't mind just throwing the dates one more time, just a little reminder, or where they can keep going to check to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so 14th November is the date that we've been allocated for Ironman South Africa. Okay. So that's the one I can tell you definitely, as long as the man upstairs crystal ball allows it to happen. That's the date of my next race.
Cool. Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Shauna?
And Knysna Xtreme on the 21st of November. So 1 week after Ironman. So the nice thing about that, though, is we have 2 races on that same day. So we have the full race, Knysna Xtreme, and we have the 0.5. So the guys who aren't fit enough yet to actually do, the massive race, they can also do the half. So it's quite a nice little bridge between, those 2 races. So yeah, 21st of November.
No, brilliant.
And then just hop onto the website and Facebook, same with everything else. Facebook is your basic source of information, I guess.
Yeah. I think it'll be under Wanna Do Events, correct?
Yeah, Wanna Do Events and Knysna Xtreme. There's also a page for that.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you want to check out any of those, it's Knysna Xtreme. I suppose for Paul's details, you can find that anywhere on the Ironman website. But the
Ironman.com, yeah.
Ironman.com. Cool. So that's the Ironman.com website. And yeah, the important dates there are the 14th and the 21st of November.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Temba. Thanks very much.
Once again for
Thanks,
your time.
Thanks, Temba.
And enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your lockdown, and stay safe.
Yeah, you too.
Cheers,
all the best, mate.
Shots.
Bye-bye.